Shabbat Shalom. Shalom. It is wonderful to be here together as a community for this Shabbat. And this is a Shabbat of turning of transition Burl, as you mentioned, you had asked, were we having Shabbat on this Christmas Eve? And one of the folks on Zoom actually said something very interesting. Hats off to you, Jackie, who's up in Toronto, actually. And what she said is to send a prayer to all of those who are celebrating Christmas, especially of those who are celebrating on their own. May they know that there are people sending Ruach and Koach, spirit and strength, their way. And so here we are on the Shabbat, but on the Jewish calendar, it's a type of transition also because we are moving from the book of Genesis. We chazak the nitchazek last week, and we are moved into the book of Shemot, beginning of the book of Exodus. And Exodus, of course, has a lot about building, and I want to talk to you about building and construction, in part because I really do have to tell you, honestly, I love building with Legos. Always since I was really little, one of my first things is, my parents said, oh, you can get a toy. I would be looking for the box, not only for the cool spaceship ones, but the ones that had the most number of bricks, but also the unique ones. Because you've got to get the special ones to be able to make them, because if you just get the square ones and the rectangular ones, it only goes so far. And I remember those experiences because, first you build from the map, right? They give you the instructions, and then once you've done that a few times, then you start to play and mess around and come up with your own creations. And in fact, my passion and love for Legos extends so far that I figured out a way, and knowing that my religious school class is a bunch of 10, 11, and 12-year-old boys, they happen to be obsessed with Legos as well. And so, of course, I worked it into a lesson on the sense of community and collaboration that I got them a set of Legos that we then have to work together to build. How's that? Isn't that convenient? Worked beautifully. Now, I share this with you for an important reason. As I have aged, although I still have fun when I get to have a Lego set, I've actually moved on. Now I don't build with Legos, now I build with words. We are the people of the book, and I also joke, yes, I joke. I wish I didn't have to joke, but I get to joke about it, that I get paid by the word. A large part of what I do as a rabbi is offer words, is link words together, identify words. And one of the things I've always done through the years is there are these moments of words that you want to teach and share with people. In Shemot, one of the most incredible common one is the word Mitzrayim, is the word of Egypt. Because we all have been to Egypt. How many of you know what the word Suris? How many of you have ever experienced Suris? Suris is the Yiddish word for challenge, trouble, pain in the tuchus. Is that a good translation of Suris? A problem, Cantor Q adds. Suris also, and Mitzrayim, Egypt, have the same root. That means in Hebrew, all of the words are built on roots, 3-letter combinations. And if you have a word that has the same root, then they have a connected meaning. Mitzrayim is connected to Tsuris. If Tsuris is challenge, problem, difficulty, pain in the tuchus, Egypt was that and more so. What Tsuris really means is pinched. It means stuck. It means a narrow place. Because when we're experiencing Tsuris, it's something that is challenging us, that is, we are stuck, that we are pinched, that we can't move forward. And that's exactly what Egypt was to the people of Israel. They were stuck. They were pinched. They were reduced to slavery, they weren't able to be fully themselves, which is what we celebrate with the Passover story, the Exodus from Egypt, getting out, the Tziat Mitzrayim, getting out of that pinched and narrow place. And of course, how do they do it? With the Sea of Reeds opening up, and so they can go forward to freedom. That's usually the word building block that I talk about when you get into this part of Exodus and you're starting the Egypt story. But over the last few weeks, I've had another word come to me that caught my attention from the Exodus story. The first place I kept seeing it was actually in the book, or in the prayer, part of the Tefillah. It's in the Avod V'Mahot. But it's not in the Gates of Prayer or Mishkan Tefillah. It's not in the Reform liturgy, but in the conservative liturgy and in European Reform liturgies, instead of saying Magen Avraham, the Ezrat Sarah, shield of Abraham and help of Sarah, you get Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah, shield of Abraham and guardian, the one who watches over Sarah. This word, pakad, that is the root pei, kuf, dalid, has a beautiful definition. It goes back to the story of the birth of Isaac, and it appears here again at the end of Genesis, and then again at the beginning of Exodus, where that word of watch over, to attend to oversee, for this verb livkod gets used again and again in all sorts of different ways. So here you have it in the liturgy. Every time we have our conservative Shabbat morning service, I see that and I'm thinking about it. And then it happens again, as I said, here in the Exodus story. Here in the Exodus story, right before the end of Genesis, Joseph says, make sure that you are going to carry my bones up out of the land of Egypt and return. If you need a sermon on carrying the bones, check out the YouTube channel. That was last week's Dvar Torah. But I love that. But that verb here is when God has taken notice of you. When you sense God is watching what's happening to the people of Israel, and you know it's time to leave, and you get pakod yivkod, that is the time when you take my bones and get out of Egypt. That's what Joseph tells his children and grandchildren, that you're going to have a time when you see that God takes notice, and when God takes notice, that's the time for you to take notice. Now this becomes significant because there's that whole exchange that happens early here in the book of Exodus when Moses comes along. Because remember, on one level, Moses doesn't believe that he can actually free the people of Israel. On another, the people of Israel don't know that this guy Moses, who they know as working as part of Pharaoh's household, that he can actually help the people of Israel. And God is the only one that seems to say, yes, people of Israel, Moses can do it. Moses can do it. And Pharaoh, as Cantor will talk about next week, definitely doesn't think Moses can do it. Yes? Good preview on the heart?
No, Pharaoh says no. I think something like that.
Something like that. You'll have to come next week. Because nothing says New Year's Eve like a good Shabbos.
I might do a song and dance.
So, later in this part of Exodus, there is this moment where the people of Israel are not sure of Moses. And in that moment, you have this repetition of a child of Asher, Serach bat Asher. I've been talking a lot about her over the last few weeks. And Serach bat Asher, according to Jewish tradition, has been passed down, she's alive from the original people that came down to Egypt. She's still alive when it's time to leave. And she goes up to the leaders and she said, Hakod Yivkod. She said, here is the guy that's telling you that God is taking notice. And Moses is the one who uses that code word, that same root of pakad, of pakod yivkod, that tips off the people of Israel. Wait, he knows the code words. This is God watching over us. Now it's time to leave. That same root keeps coming up in different places, whether it's a reference to Sarah and Abraham. Here it's happening in Egypt. Different ways of that word of yifkod, to take notice of, to be aware of, to watch over. And I see that word, and every time I see it, and that's the beauty of Hebrew, because Hebrew has those roots, and you see those repetitions. It's like when somebody calls your attention to something, and you see it again and again. And it's such a powerful and beautiful word, and it reminds me, whereas before it was Egypt, Mitzrayim, let me get out of Tsuris, or help people through their Tsuris. And this year, as I see that word repeat, it catches something in my attention. It raises my awareness and says, I have to tune in. I have to make that extra effort to really take note of the people around me and the experiences that I'm having. Am I doing what I need to do to honor what they are giving to me, and then take from what they are giving to me to invest that energy into additional acts of caring? It's a challenge. It's a beautiful challenge. Every time when I'm saying, God, watch over Sarah, it's that challenge to me. Am I doing that act of watching over those who are in my care or those who cross my path? Am I doing what I need to do to offer appreciation to the people who watch over me? And how do I? Think about the universe, think about God watching over and protecting with me. It is, every time I see that word, whether it's in prayer, whether it's in Torah, each time I see it, it just has that little moment of spark, that little moment of connection to get me to start thinking about the meaning of that word and ask myself those huge focusing and guiding questions. Tonight, I offer you not just that word, but I hope something actually bigger. An awareness of words. Because that's part of our tradition, of being aware of the words we say, of finding words to treasure, and then you taking those words and working on them. It's not just a rabbi thing. It's not just something for the scholars or for people even who know Hebrew. In fact, I'm going to guess that all of you keep track of things. You all probably could put your hands on your cell phones, your car keys, wedding rings, your wallets. All of us carry stuff with us, right? He's even checking to make sure he's got his car keys. We all carry stuff. And I offer to you on this Shabbat, when we're told that the key to the people of Israel is feeling God to watch over them, and as a reminder for us to be ever more watchful, that this is an opportunity to think about and look for your Hebrew word. This one happened to be the one that caught my attention in this word in this year, but I challenge you to look for a Hebrew word. It could be a word that you know, shalom. It's incredible to me when we do the Martin Luther King Jr. parade, and I say shalom y'all to people as we are going, how many people say shalom back? People know what it means. It might be a word you need to know. It might be a word that you find that you connect with. A word that you hear in a story or a prayer or a ritual, and you feel that moment of connection, say, wait, I want to wrestle with that word. Shalom. Ruach and koach, spirit and strength. The Hebrew word kadosh, kiddush, kadosh, kaddish, acts of memory. Baruch, that act of blessing using every part of our bodies. There are plenty of words out there. And I challenge you on this Shabbat to take time, to take a moment to look, to list a few words you know, or even ask a rabbi, or ask a cantor, or ask someone, but look for a word. something that you can bond with and connect with. Because in this week's Torah portion, we're told these are the names of our ancestors who went down and then came up from Egypt. And so on this Shabbat, I offer to you, these are the words. If we hear them, if we take them to heart, when we bring forth those words into our world, they can lead us to powerful moments of spiritual connection. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.